You're tired of hearing that you need to vibrate high to manifest, as if reality were an electronic door that only opens when it detects a perfect smile on your face. You try to produce euphoria, forcing gratitude like someone pushing a stuck window. And when the feeling doesn't come, you conclude that you are misaligned. Listen carefully, because this needs to be cut off at the root. The obsession with vibration has become a cult of emotional climate. You have been trained to confuse energy with state. You try to inflate the feeling from the outside, while on the inside you continue to inhabit the same old identity. And then you call blockage what is merely sustained incoherence. The visible world is not a judge evaluating whether you deserve something. It is an echo, and an echo doesn't initiate anything. It responds. When you chase high vibration, you remain in the position of someone reacting to a reflection. You place yourself as someone who needs to adjust to the world to receive a prize. This is the posture of a beggar. Power is the opposite. It's choosing a state and remaining in it until the echo learns to repeat the new note. Vibration is not the command. Vibration is the side effect of the command. Whoever understands this stops begging for a feeling and starts to govern their inner world with precision. Start with this and be relentless with yourself. Stop using your mood as a thermometer for your creation. Your body has its days. Your mind has its clouds. Your destiny cannot depend on the weather. You don't enter an elevator to the top of a building and decide to jump halfway because the background music didn't uplift you. You press the floor and remain. Manifesting is this. You choose the internal destination and remain even when the emotion isn't sky high. Emotion is like the sound of the engine. It can vary, but it doesn't decide the destination. See a clear image, a thermostat and a thermometer on the same wall. The thermometer merely registers. It reads the room and says, "It's cold." It changes nothing. The thermostat decides. It says, "It's going to be this way," and in time, the environment obeys. Most people have become thermometers of themselves. They wake up anxious, feel the tightness, and declare, "Today's not going to work." With that, they confirm the old state, not because their energy dropped, but because they obey the reading, not the command. You weren't made to register the world. You were made to decree a state and sustain that decree. But I wake up anxious. Anxiety is a sound, not an address. You can hear a sound without living in it. You can feel a contraction in your chest and still maintain your inner verdict. You've been misled to believe that if you're not feeling perfect, you're not creating. On the contrary, it's when you sustain the state despite the noise that you prove you are sovereign. A king doesn't abdicate because the day is cloudy. A captain doesn't change course because a wave hit the hull harder. You feel and yet you remain. So instead of chasing euphoria, assume an inner fact, a verdict. Decide with the same naturalness with which you decide your name, who you are at the end of this story. Not tomorrow, not when I get better. Now. If you want prosperity, don't try to look prosperous in public. Embody the intimate posture of someone who manages prosperity. If you want love, don't beg for attention. Inhabit the presence of someone already chosen. If you want respect, don't negotiate your value with gestures. Shift the center of gravity of your identity. There's an error I see repeated. People try to feel a lot to believe. They think that if the emotion isn't intense, the imagination hasn't taken hold. This is childish. A true document doesn't need fireworks. You sign it, and it's done. The state isn't a spectacle. It's a silent contract with your own consciousness. You don't need ecstasy. You need stability. The state is a foundation. Vibration is a wind that passes over that foundation. You can test this today, without ceremony. Choose a single phrase that defines the end, not as hope, but as identity. I am the person for whom this is already normal. Repeat it internally, not as a mantra to convince, but as a reminder not to forget. Then observe your day. You'll notice that certain automatic reactions begin to feel strange, like old clothes that no longer fit. And that's exactly how the state settles in. Not with fireworks, but with a silent shift in your normal pattern. When you understand this, the question changes. You stop asking, how do I increase my vibration, and start asking, from which chair am I living? Yes, chair. Because states are positions. There's the chair of the persecuted, who always suspects life will take something away. There's the chair of the needy, who waits for crumbs and calls it destiny. There's the chair of the chosen, who doesn't beg for confirmation. He acts as someone already included. Change chairs. At first it will feel like pretense because the old self will protest. Let it protest. What commands is not the protest. It is the decree. And don't confuse naturalness with enthusiasm. Naturalness is what you feel when something is obvious to you. You don't vibrate high from knowing your name, you simply know. That's the goal, to transform desire into internal obviousness. That's why emotional effort is so useless. It tries to push a desire upward, while what needs to happen is for the desire to descend to the level of normal within you. When desire becomes normal, it stops being an event and becomes a fact. And the world always reorganizes itself around the fact you consistently sustain. If you want to accelerate this inner mastery, there's direct material in the pinned comment link that guides you clearly with practical exercises and simple steps to train consistency, align imagination, focus, and daily action without relying on motivation. Now abandon the old habit of waiting for the world to give you permission to feel. There's a discipline that changes your interpretation of life, using what happens as a symbol, not a sentence. People look at a delay and say, "See, it didn't work." This is someone interpreting shadows as if they were the real thing. A delay might just be a rearrangement. A no might just be a corridor changing direction. Visible reality is a dashboard that updates with a delay. You're looking at the monitor and arguing with a process that hasn't finished yet. The common mind turns any detail into a prophecy. A bill arrives and it declares, "I'm always stuck." A message is delayed and it declares, "Nobody chooses me." An opportunity disappears and it declares, "Nothing ever happens for me." See? It's not the event, it's the translation, and translation is a choice of state. You don't need to control every fact. You need to control the meaning you give to the facts, because meaning becomes focus. Focus becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. And identity is the mold the world uses to respond to you. When something seemingly contrary happens, don't ask why me, ask what state should I inhabit now so that this is just a detail. You don't change a movie by arguing with a scene. You change the scene by changing the internal script. This is where many get lost. They put the world in command and kneel before signs. No sign creates. Signs follow. You decide first, and then you see. I'll give you a mental image. You're wearing glasses with a slightly smudged lens. The sky might be clear, but you'll see smudges. Instead of cleaning the lens, you argue with the sky. This is how those who chase vibration live. They look for a perfect feeling to believe and ignore that the filter is within. Clean the filter. Choose the state. When the filter changes, the same life reorganizes itself before you with a new meaning. Without drama, simply out of coherence. There's another way to see it. You don't elevate like someone climbing stairs, you tune. A musician doesn't blame the theater because the sound is out of tune. He adjusts the string. And note, tuning isn't about being happy, it's about being coherent. A string can be too tight and sound sharp or too loose and sound flat. The right adjustment isn't more, it's exact. Your state is the tuning. When you choose the end and return to it repeatedly, you tune your consciousness to a specific note. And external reality, like a well-played instrument, begins to respond with the same note. And, as every musician knows, tuning is maintained amidst the noise. You can be in a chaotic environment, in a hurry, with problems, and still play the right note. The quest for high vibration is like demanding absolute silence to play. You'll never play. The creator plays even with noise. He doesn't wait for the world to be perfect to be coherent internally. I've seen people lose months because of a detail they called a sign. The interview was rescheduled and they gave up. A client disappeared for 3 days and they panicked. A relative made an acidic comment and they returned to the "I'm not enough" state. This isn't life against you. This is you letting any external voice choose your identity. Symbolic interpretation corrects this. You look at the same event and ask, what is this asking me to strengthen within myself? Sometimes life takes away one door to push you towards the right door. Sometimes it delays a result to prevent you from entering unprepared and spoiling what you asked for. Think of a large ship. It doesn't change direction with every wave. It corrects by degrees, not kilometers. The state does the same. You don't need to transform the whole day. You just need to prevent an event from pulling you off course. Small internal corrections made early prevent emotional storms later. The person who manifests consistently isn't the one who never falls. It's the one who gets back up quickly. After this, cut off negotiations with how. The mind loves how because how allows postponement. As long as you search for the perfect path, you maintain the identity of someone who doesn't have it yet. The how becomes a sophisticated hiding place. You say, I'm being prudent, but behind that is a confession. I don't trust my inner command, so I'll demand external guarantees before inhabiting the state. Imagination doesn't ask for permission. It decrees. You don't need to know the entire sequence. You need to know who you are when it's already done. Fair's like a passport. It defines where you enter, even without telling you which streets you'll cross. Assume the passport of the final state. The path aligns with your new document. And if the mind insists on, but how, you respond, that's not my job today. My job is to remain in the end. The how is reality's logistics department. It works best when you stop interrupting. Here's a trick that exposes the lie of how. If I were to give you today, right now, the final news you want, an undeniable confirmation, your mind would stop asking, how? Why? Because upon receiving proof, you automatically change your state. So understand, the problem was never how, the problem was the state. Change the state without waiting for proof. That's the courage the world calls impossible until it becomes obvious. The how also resolves with a simple rule. Never use absence of evidence as evidence of absence. The mind does this all the time. It looks at the clock and decides that the result took too long, as if reality obeyed its calendar whim. But you don't measure a construction by the sound of a hammer on a single day. There are days of invisible foundation. There are days of cement drying. There are days of structure being aligned. If you abandon the work because you didn't hear noise today, you only prove that you wanted a spectacle, not a reality. When the mind asks for guarantees, give it a smaller task. What's the next obvious action someone in the final state would take without drama? Just that. A message, a registration, a quote, a workout, a request for information, a necessary conversation. You don't need a 10-year map. You need one faithful step. And when you take that step, you reinforce the state. The reinforced state attracts the next step. Reality builds itself like a bridge that appears one section at a time as you advance. Further on, you need discipline of attention, not discipline of emotion. Attention is what you repeat without realizing it. It's the background dialogue, the script running when you're driving, washing dishes, waiting for a reply, staring at the ceiling before bed. Most people put on a beautiful scene for a few minutes and spend the rest of the day rehearsing the opposite with the same intensity. They close their eyes and build a palace. They open their eyes and rent a basement in their mind. You don't need long sessions, you need consistency with quality. Choose a short, specific scene that represents the end. Not something generic like, I am happy, because that slips away. A detail that proves it has already happened. The phone vibrating with the right message, the sound of a signature, the weight of a new key in your hand, a hug that says, I knew it, a number on the screen, a paid receipt, a simple and natural compliment. Make this scene an intimate habit, like brushing your destiny's teeth. And when the day tries to hijack your attention back to the old story, you return to the new inner fact without drama. You don't engage in debate. Debate is energy given to the old. You simply return, like someone putting their foot back on the track. Oh, but I caught myself thinking the opposite. So what? The error isn't the thought arising. The error is treating it as an order. Thought is a visit. State is a residence. You choose who holds the key. The discipline of attention has a method few respect: micro-returns. It's not about never thinking negatively. It's about not allowing the negative to become a residence. You notice an old thought and instead of fighting it, treat it like a street ad. You saw it, but you didn't buy it. Then you return to the end in 15 seconds. 15. A breath, a quick image, a feeling of it is done. This repeated dozens of times throughout the day is worth more than one long session done once a week, because consciousness learns by frequency. It's like training an animal. You don't change a habit with a lecture, you change it with frequency. That's why I insist. Choose a short scene and a simple feeling of normality. Don't seek ecstasy, seek familiarity. Familiarity creates permanence. Permanence creates world. And then, learn to act as a consequence, not as an attempt. Many people talk about aligned action but act like they're bargaining. If I do this, I get that. That's still begging. The correct action is born from the correct state. When you truly assume it, you move without desperation. You don't chase, you organize, you don't beg. You position yourself. You don't humble yourself, you present yourself. Imagine a magnet hidden in your chest. A magnet doesn't shout. A magnet doesn't explain itself. A magnet attracts and rearranges things around it without spectacle. When you assume it, opportunities that were once invisible become obvious. You call someone at the right moment. You accept a conversation you would have avoided before. You learn a skill without feeling like you're sacrificing. You make a small adjustment without dramatizing. You improve your posture, your care, your commitment, not out of fear of losing, but out of certainty of building. There's a difference between pushing life and making space for life. Pushing is acting with tension, as if every step were a test of worth. Making space is acting like someone who already belongs to the outcome. You don't keep asking if it will work out. You behave like someone already on their way, just tending to the bridge. An artisan doesn't cry over the wood. He molds it. A creator doesn't lament absence. He installs presence. And notice how action changes when it's born from the state. When you act as an attempt, you wear yourself out, because every step carries fear. What if it doesn't work? You check for signs, like someone poking a wound to see if it has healed. That only reopens it. When you act as a consequence, the body relaxes. You do what needs to be done with a strange calm, almost irritating to those living in anxiety. And it is this calm that opens doors, because people and opportunities respond to firmness that doesn't apologize. There's a magnetism that doesn't come from charisma. It comes from coherence. The world trusts those who are not negotiating with themselves. Have you ever felt that when talking to someone who knows what they want? It's not noise, it's direction. Be direction. And there's a final discipline that separates the curious from the committed: silence and persistence. Not the silence of shame, but the silence of not asking for approval to exist. The more you comment, the more you expose your creation to the old state of seeking validation. You want someone to say it will work out because inside you haven't said it yet. Say it yourself, firmly, in silence, and then live as someone who has already decided. As for silence, I'll be even more direct. Stop telling your creation to those still living in the old state. You cast pearls on the ground and then wonder why you feel doubt. Doubt is contagious. Protect your state like someone protecting a flame in the wind. Not out of superstition, but for mental hygiene. You don't need the world to applaud your new self. You need your new self to be real to you. Persistence isn't repeating phrases like a parrot. Persistence is refusing to return to the old self. It's when you see a detail out of place and instead of calling it a defeat, you adjust your inner posture and continue. It's when you have a rough day and instead of declaring bankruptcy, you maintain your verdict. It's when nothing seems to move, and yet you don't change your address. You don't abandon the house just because the postman hasn't arrived yet. You remain in the state and let the world learn to find you there. And if you realize that for years you've been conditioned to ask instead of command, don't condemn yourself. Just change now. Because the future doesn't demand that you erase the past. It demands that you stop living in it. The old state will try to pull you with arguments. Be realistic, be discreet. Don't create expectations. I'm not asking you for expectation. I'm asking you for decision. Expectation is anxiety about the exterior. Decision is loyalty to the interior. You don't need to vibrate high, you need to be faithful to the chosen state. Vibration rises and falls like the tide. The state is the lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't panic because there are waves. From today onward, stop begging for external changes. Stop negotiating with appearances. Stop measuring your power by your mood. You are the command, not the request. You are the cause, not the effect. Choose a state as you would choose an entire life. Sustain it without announcing it, without justifying it, without begging for signs, and watch life find a way to obey you. If you want a practical path to train this every day, with simple exercises to gain clarity, break resistance, and set your imagination in motion with aligned actions, the link in the pinned comment is there to accompany you. Use and apply it. And then return here changed, not seeking a feeling, but living as one who has already claimed it. Now the final exhortation. Stop asking reality to change so you can feel secure. Invert it. Feel secure in the chosen state and compel reality to reorganize itself. Do this in silence, with certainty, like someone signing their own destiny. From now on, you don't beg. You command from within, and life obeys the state you have decided to inhabit. Obey. 39 seconds is not an arbitrary formula. It is enough time to break through mental distraction, silence doubt, and fix, like a hot iron, the desired state. In less than a minute, you can cast an order into the invisible that will echo until it becomes flesh and blood in your life. And if you dare to sustain this with earnestness, you will see results that defy all human logic. That is why today I do not bring you mere words. I bring a calling, a call for you to awaken, to stop living as servants of the external world, and begin to order your reality as masters. Because all is already done, all is already given. What is missing is not the gift, but the consciousness of receiving it. The 39-second mantra is not merely a sequence of words, but a gateway to the remembrance of your true power. Understand, during this brief period of time, you must declare within yourself, not as one who asks, but as one who already possesses. The common mind is inconstant, leaping from thought to thought, and that is why man finds himself divided, desiring on one hand and denying on the other. But when you fix your attention for 39 seconds on a single truth, something happens. The internal chaos silences, distraction vanishes, and your consciousness anchors itself in the chosen state. The secret is not in the phrase itself, but in the power of sustained attention. Use these words like a blade, cutting through all doubt. It is already done, it is already accomplished, it is already mine. During this time, allow nothing else to exist beyond the feeling that your desire has already been fulfilled. Neville learned this from me and experienced the immediate power of this practice. When he concentrated on what he desired with the strength of one who does not doubt, he saw life reorganize itself in less than 24 hours. It was not coincidence, it was not chance, it was law. And it is this same law that you can activate now. 39 seconds seems short, but within the dimension of imagination, it is eternity. It is as if the invisible world only needs this firm breath of certainty, to begin architecting what you have already assumed as real. What is maintained in the mind for long enough with sufficient intensity cannot be denied. The invisible begins to move, people are impelled, circumstances adjust, and what once seemed distant is now moving towards you. But realize, it is not an empty repetition, it is not a mechanical ritual. If your words do not carry feeling, if there is no silent conviction behind them, then it will all be nothing more than an echo. What moves the law are not syllables but the fire of feeling. When you say in your imagination, "It is already done," your heart must burn with the feeling of possession. See yourself at the end of the journey as one who has already crossed the finish line. Do not expect anything, do not ask for anything, just recognize what already is. At that moment, your consciousness ceases to identify with lack and begins to inhabit the state of fullness. It is necessary to understand that the mantra does not act on its own. It is the tool that awakens in you the remembrance that there is no distance between what is desired and what already exists in the invisible. It puts you in tune with what is already ready to manifest. When you maintain this vision, you no longer bow to the world's appearances. You do not seek signs. You do not beg for proof. You know, and this knowing becomes law. The 39-second repetition is the seal, the decree, the invisible signature that guarantees the harvest. If you dare to apply this with sincerity, if you dare to stop looking outward and begin to sustain within yourself unwavering certainty, you will discover that there is no delay. The world responds quickly because there was never any distance. What you assume as true inwardly already exists, and it only waits for you to remain in it long enough for the form to reveal itself. The 39-second mantra is not a vague promise. It is the remembrance that power is in your hands and that a drop of sustained conviction is worth more than 1,000 days of doubt. Sustain it, and the impossible will cease to exist. Now that the mantra has been revealed, it is necessary to understand how to use it correctly, because many, in their eagerness to see results, rush and end up nullifying their own creation. When you sit in silence and declare within yourself, "It is already done, it is already accomplished, it is already mine," you are not asking a distant force to grant your wish, but establishing within your consciousness the law that will govern the events to come. There is a profound difference between the man who asks and the man who decrees. The one who asks places himself in the position of lack, reinforcing that he does not yet possess, and thereby prolongs the wait. The one who decrees assumes the end as a present reality, and his imagination becomes the fertile ground where new life sprouts. It is at this point that most stumble. They say the right words, but they continue to think like someone who has not yet received. Maintaining the mantra requires you to wear, even in silence, the identity of one who already possesses. If you desire health, you must feel it pulsating in every cell, as if it were impossible to doubt. If you seek prosperity, you must walk mentally as one who already enjoys abundance, breathing the lightness of one who no longer fears bills. It is this inner posture that gives power to the words. Without it, the practice is reduced to an empty ritual, and the external world does not move. During the 39 seconds, there is no room for questioning. You must not look at circumstances, debts, diagnoses, problems, or absences. All of this is an old reflection, a dead image of states you have sustained before. Now your attention focuses solely on what is already true in the invisible. Repeat the mantra as one who burns fire into iron, firm, unwavering, laden with feeling. By doing this, you are writing a new law in your own mind. The secret lies in naturalness. You must not force yourself to believe like one struggling against the tide, but simply allow yourself to rest in the desired state. As you repeat, "It is already done," let an inner smile emerge, like one who recognizes an inevitable victory. It is not effort, it is surrender. Surrender to the new state and allow it to become more real to you than any contrary appearance. This quiet confidence is what opens the floodgates for the invisible to manifest in concrete facts. Therefore, the first correct application of the mantra is this: to exchange the posture of supplication for the silent certainty of one who already possesses. The external world cannot resist this change because the external is merely a shadow, and the shadow always obeys the light. Maintain this truth during the 39 seconds, and you will realize that, instead of waiting for signs or proof, your own consciousness will become the living proof. And when that happens, external facts will have no choice but to obey the decree already etched within you. After understanding that the mantra is not supplication but a decree, the next step is to learn to hold it in silence after pronouncing it. This is where many fail. They sustain certainty for 39 seconds, but then immediately open the door to doubt and let everything drain away. Understand, the word decreed in imagination needs silence to germinate, just as a seed sown in the earth needs rest to sprout. If, after planting, you dig up the soil every day to check, you will never see fruit. So it is with the mantra. It demands that you remain silent in the face of appearances. When the 39 seconds are over, your only task is to trust. The mind will naturally try to ask, did it work? Or seek immediate signs. This impulse is disguised denial. It is like pulling up the plant's root before it grows. Discipline lies in refusing doubt without fighting against it. Simply remember, it is already done. Do not look for indications. Do not analyze whether the world has changed. Do not beg for answers. The external world has no autonomy. It is merely a reflection. The reflection cannot move until the inner image is firm. Inner silence is not emptiness but strength. It is the confidence of the king who has already decreed and does not need to repeat the order to his servants. The universe is your servant. A clear order, sustained without contradiction, is enough to move people, open doors, and create circumstances that once seemed impossible. But if you doubt, you confuse your servants, and they do not know whom to obey. Therefore, guard your words after the mantra. Avoid conversations that contradict your decree. Avoid venting that reinforces lack. If you cannot speak in accordance with what already is, remain silent. This silence is not passivity. It is the atmosphere that protects the seed from interference. When you become silent before the external world, you are proclaiming, even without words, that your faith needs no proof. It is the quiet confidence of one who knows he already possesses. This state is powerful because it makes you walk with a new posture, and this posture communicates more to the invisible than 1,000 prayers of despair. Remember, doubt is the only force capable of nullifying the decree. It is not enemies, it is not circumstances, it is not difficulties. Only your disbelief can close the door you have opened. Therefore, keep the mantra in the vault of silence. Say within yourself, it is already done, and then walk as one who needs no justification nor explanation to anyone. The world will obey because it cannot resist one who maintains their faith in silence and firmness. Now it is necessary to understand the need for persistence. Some, when they apply the mantra, expect everything to resolve immediately. And if they see no signs in a few hours, they conclude that nothing happened. This error destroys the work. The law does not fail, but man is impatient. To persist does not mean to repeat with anxiety, but to sustain the decree with firmness until conviction becomes natural. It is like watering a plant daily. It is not about pulling it from the earth to see if it has grown, but about silently nurturing the certainty that, in due time, the harvest will come. The 39-second mantra is the initial spark, the moment you etch the command into the invisible. But if your mind is unstable, if it fluctuates between faith and doubt, you will need to repeat it more often, always with the same intensity. There is no problem in returning to it daily, provided that each repetition is made as if it were the last, with the full feeling that it is already accomplished. Do not count the days. Do not wait for the result with anxiety, because anxious expectation reveals incredulity. Just repeat and rest. Persistence transforms the assumed state into second nature. Initially, it may seem difficult to sustain conviction for 39 seconds because the mind wanders, gets distracted, questions. But the more you practice, the more natural this state becomes. There comes a point where it is no longer effort, it is breathing. You no longer need to struggle to believe. Certainty settles within you as something obvious, and at that moment, manifestation is inevitable. Do not deceive yourself by thinking you persist only when you see quick results. True persistence is when, even in the face of contrary circumstances, you continue to maintain, "It is already done." This inner posture is proof that your faith does not depend on external evidence. And precisely when the external seems to resist, that is when you must be even firmer, because this resistance is merely the old image trying to survive. Persist, and you will see that the old form will dissolve like mist before the sun. The law knows no impossible. Everything you maintain as an inner state will eventually find expression. Time does not matter, because in the invisible it is already accomplished. Persistence serves only for yourself, to strengthen your mind until there is no room for doubt. It is an exercise of discipline, of mastery over your attention. With each repetition, you educate your imagination to remain in the end, until there is no longer any effort in believing, because it has become your new identity. Therefore, persist with courage and tranquility. Repeat the mantra whenever you feel the need, not as one who implores, but as one who reinforces the remembrance of their already won victory. And when the state is so natural that you can no longer think as before, you will know that the harvest is at the gates. The world will not be able to resist, because the invisible has already decreed. After knowing the mantra, learning to decree instead of ask, holding silence after pronouncing it, and persisting until it becomes natural, one essential point remains: living in accordance with the assumed state. For it is of no use to plant the seed and then trample it with contrary actions. If you have declared in your imagination that you already possess, but act daily as one who still lacks, you destroy with your hands what you created with your mind. The law responds to inner coherence, and this coherence is also reflected in your conduct. When you finish your 39 seconds of decree, do not go back to walking like the beggar who implores. Walk as one who has already received. Allow your gestures, your speech, and even your posture to convey the silent certainty of one who lives in the desired end. If what you seek is health, do not drag yourself through the world as one bearing the burden of illness. Rise, breathe, and feel life already pulsating within you. If what you desire is prosperity, do not speak like one who fears lack. Do not complain. Do not repeat words of scarcity that the world so enjoys propagating. Speak as an owner, as an heir, as someone for whom abundance is natural. This change is not theater. It is inner confirmation. The world reacts to your vibration. People perceive, even without words, the energy of one who already sees themselves fulfilled. Situations begin to move not because you strive to manipulate, but because your inner posture attracts and commands. This is the power of living the assumed state. You no longer wait, you embody it. It is like putting on new clothes and, in wearing them, forgetting the old ones. You do not need to explain to anyone. Your very presence becomes a testament to the decree. But be aware, living the assumed state is not about flaunting or trying to prove anything to others. That would only reinforce that you still doubt. Living the state is something intimate, silent yet powerful. It is feeling that it already is, even when no one sees. It is acting as one who already has, even when the world insists on showing otherwise. This inner firmness makes the old reality bend, because it no longer finds support in you. Do not be deceived by circumstances. If, after decreeing, you still find signs of lack, ignore them. They are just old reflections, images that will lose strength as soon as you stop giving them attention. Continue living the new identity, and you will see that everything around you will be forced to align. The external has no will of its own, it merely reflects. Therefore, the final step is this: to embody the new state as if it were impossible to doubt. Allow your daily life, in every small gesture, to confirm the reality you have already decreed within yourself. When conduct and imagination unite, nothing can resist. The invisible will become visible because you not only spoke, but lived as one who already possesses. This is the final seal of the law, and in it, the impossible dissolves. Now you know. The 39-second mantra is not a trick to impress the curious mind, but a call to awaken the dormant creator within each one. By decreeing with conviction, by holding silence, by persisting, and by living the assumed state, You cease to be slaves of circumstances and reclaim the throne that has always belonged to you. External reality has no power whatsoever before one who firmly maintains an inner vision. Everything you see is merely a reflection. The mirror does not create, it merely returns. And if the reflection does not please you, it is not the mirror that needs to change, but the image you project. Enough with begging for signs, enough with waiting for chance to favor you. You are not here to implore, but to command. The law is simple. What you assume as true within yourselves will sooner or later be revealed outside. There are no exceptions, no failures, no escape. The world obeys, because the world is nothing more than the projection of your own sustained imagination. Therefore, from today, assume the posture of masters. When you perform the mantra, do so with the authority of one who knows they already possess. Hold silence even in the face of doubt. Persist until conviction becomes natural, and, above all, live as one who already is. Do not ask, decree. Do not wait, assume. Do not seek proof, be the proof. And if you do this, you will see that in 24 hours, in a few days, or in whatever time is necessary, reality will have no choice but to bend, because all is already done, all is already given, and all you need is to remember your inheritance, conscious creators, heirs of a power that the world has forgotten, but which within you has never ceased to exist. The impossible does not exist for one who knows who they are. Pause for a moment. Silence the world's noise. Breathe. What you call reality, this sequence of bills, schedules, news, and worries, is merely the echo of something deeper, the reflection of the images you silently hold within yourself. What appears before your eyes is not what truly exists, but what you believe to exist. Every figure in your account, every person on your path, every coincidence of the day, all of it is just the projection of an assumed inner state, consciously or unconsciously. You have been conditioned to think that money comes from outside, from effort, luck, or someone noticing you. But money, like any manifestation, is just a messenger of your inner state. It moves where there is certainty. It avoids where there is doubt. And as long as your mind is divided between I want and but what if it doesn't come, the world will reflect exactly that division. Half-open doors, delayed promises, opportunities that almost happen. Therefore, I ask you, for a single day, try something most people never dare. An entire day without asking, without worrying, without waiting. Just one day assuming everything is already yours. One day acting as if you possess what you once sought. One day feeling worthy of abundance, not as someone desiring a gift, but as someone claiming an inheritance, because that is what it is, a forgotten inheritance. You were made in the image of the Creator. This is not spiritual poetry. It is a law. In the image does not mean appearance, but nature. The Creator imagines, and what is imagined becomes. And if you are made of the same substance, you also create through assumption. The difference is that you forgot. You started to believe more in the bills that arrive than in the ideas that are born within. You began to measure the invisible by the senses, when the visible is merely the shadow of the invisible. Today, you will reverse that order. Today, you will not react to the world, you will command it. Not with arrogance, but with the calm authority of one who knows that everything seen is merely a response. And if it is a response, your state is what asks first. Money, opportunity, change, they do not create themselves, they merely obey what you assume to be true. So be silent. Forget the how and the when. Close your eyes and imagine the end as already achieved. See yourself free, peaceful, prosperous. Feel the relief of one who has already received, the gratitude of one who is already living the result, and sustain that just for one day. You will discover that the universe is not a distant force to be convinced. It is a living, malleable mirror that only knows how to say yes to what you are within. The first principle is simple, but it separates those who live as creators from those who merely survive by reacting to the world. Money does not come when desired. It comes when you become the type of person who naturally possesses it. To desire is to declare to the universe that something is missing. It is to reinforce the state of absence. And the universe, being merely a perfect mirror of what you assume to be, can only give you more of the same, more waiting, more distance, more not yet. Therefore, when you say, "I want prosperity," you push it away because you confess not having it. But when you say, "I am prosperous," without needing proof, you have already changed the state that creates the proofs. It is the being, not the asking, that moves the invisible forces. Many do not understand that money is not a mysterious substance that descends from the sky. It is a vibration, a frequency of consciousness. The poor mind is noisy, doubtful, always looking outward. The rich mind is silent, centered, confident, not because it already has everything, but because it knows that having is merely the reflection of being. And when the being changes, everything that exists is rearranged to obey it. The mistake of almost everyone is trying to attract what they desire while remaining in the same inner state of scarcity. They want a harvest without changing the seed. They want new results with the same old mind. Therefore, the secret is not to work harder, pray more, or force positive thinking. The secret is to mentally inhabit the desired end until it becomes so natural that the world has no choice but to manifest it. When you move through life as someone who already has, your words change, your posture changes, your gaze changes. You stop waiting for the right moment and begin to act coherently with the state of abundance. And this silent coherence is magnetic. It attracts what is in harmony with it. Imagine an actor who, before stepping onto the stage, already fully embodies the character. He doesn't pretend to be, he is. And when he steps into the scene, the audience believes, the scenery comes alive, the story unfolds. It is the same with you. The world is the stage, and the life you live is the role you have chosen to play. If you continue playing the character of lack, the plot will always be the same. But if today, just for one day, you choose the role of abundance, the scenery will begin to shift. So don't ask the universe to give you money. Become the consciousness of one who has it. Feel the weight of the bills in your hands. See the numbers growing in the account. Hear the words approved. It's paid. You did it. Experience the real emotion of achievement, and it will cease to be a dream and become a state. And that state, sustained with faith and constancy, is the supreme decree of creation. The second principle is to understand that imagination is not a distraction from reality. It is reality itself in its invisible phase. Everything that exists in the physical world first existed in the silent field of the mind. Every coin, every house, every idea that once became an empire was born from an inner image sustained until it took form. The problem is that most people use imagination to confirm fear. They imagine debts, failures, rejection, scarcity, and call this worry. The universe, however, does not distinguish whether what you imagine is desired or feared. It merely reflects the image faithfully. Therefore, what you see now in your life is the exact mirror of the dominant images you have cultivated without realizing it. Money does not appear out of nowhere. It is coagulated from the invisible by the power of disciplined imagination. When you imagine something with feeling, you are imprinting a vibrational order in the field of existence. It's as if you were saying, this is what I am. And life obediently begins to move all the pieces, people, circumstances, ideas, so that the inner picture reveals itself in matter. But most people try to imagine the end while still doubting. They want to visualize wealth but carry a constant feeling of lack. They want to imagine success but feel small. And imagination, when contradicted by emotion, nullifies itself. Therefore, the secret lies in feeling what you imagine as something present, not distant. When you close your eyes and feel the warmth of victory, the relief of a paid bill, the joy of seeing a result that once seemed impossible, your subconscious accepts that image as fact. And the subconscious is the worker of creation. It does not question, it merely executes. Dedicate an entire day to this. Imagine the accomplished end and feel the corresponding emotion. Don't visualize money coming. Visualize the state of one who already has it. See yourself free from worries, generous, peaceful, secure. See yourself helping others, laughing at what once distressed you, experiencing the lightness of one who has already triumphed. Don't force it, just allow it. Imagination is the link between the invisible and the visible, the divine and the human, the Creator, and their creation. When you use it with intention and faith, time bends and the impossible reorganizes itself. The right doors open, opportunities emerge, and the path that once seemed closed begins to reveal itself step by step. Remember, nothing real happens outside before it happens within. Sustain your vision, and the world, like an obedient servant, will bow to the image you kept alive in your mind. The third principle is to completely abandon the habit of reacting to appearances. Everything you see is merely a delayed reflection of what you once believed to be. The visible world is like the light of a star you observe in the sky. It may have ceased to exist millennia ago, but its image still travels to you. So it is with your current reality. It is the old light of mental states you no longer need to sustain. If you look at your bank statement, your debts, the delay of opportunities, and allow this to dictate what is possible, you will be perpetuating the past. The secret lies in not reacting to what has already been created, but in sustaining what is being created now within you. Appearances only have power over those who believe in them. They whisper, "You won't succeed. Things are still the same. Nothing has changed." And if you listen to that voice, you return to the old state, the state of limitation. But when you begin to see beyond appearances, you understand that every limitation is merely a temporary illusion. The invisible is more real than the visible. The invisible is the cause, and the visible merely the effect. He who allows himself to be deceived by the effect relinquishes the power of the cause. Therefore, when circumstances seem contrary, do not fight them. Just look and say in silence, "This is the past dissolving," and return to the inner vision of what you have chosen to be. This is true faith, not believing in something despite the evidence, but knowing that the evidence is merely a delayed shadow of what you have already decided. Faith is not emotion, it is position. It is to remain unshakable while the world adjusts to the new decree. He who lives reacting to the external lives trapped in the cycle of cause and effect. But he who creates from within breaks the cycle and establishes new causes. And the world, sooner or later, bows before him. When you stop looking for signs and start being the sign, everything will change. You will be the very testimony of transformation. So, if your balance is still low, be grateful. It is only showing who you were, not who you are now. Do not weep before scarcity. Smile before the invisible truth that is already fulfilling itself. Sustain your new identity with firmness. Speak, walk, decide, and behave as one who already possesses what they desire. Because, in the eyes of the law, this is already true. And when the new state becomes more real to you than the old reflection, the old disappears, and the invisible finally takes form. The fourth principle is inner persistence. Most people start well, feel enthusiastic in the first few days, but give up as soon as the world doesn't change immediately. And it is at that exact moment that creation stops. The physical universe is dense and slow. It needs constancy to align with the new state. Imagine planting a seed and every day digging up the soil to see if it has sprouted. This action kills the process. Faith is the opposite of that. It is to plant, water with feeling, and remain in silence, knowing that the invisible is already working for you. When you assume a new state, that of prosperity, for example, the old state begins to die. And death in any form is uncomfortable. The external world will test you. It will seem like nothing is happening or that everything is getting worse. People drift away, bills emerge, opportunities vanish. But this is not a setback, it is a cleansing. The universe is removing what does not align with the new being you have chosen to be. If you understand this, you will not be shaken. You remain firm, sustaining the inner state with serenity, because you know that apparent chaos is merely the birth of a new reality. Persistence is not physical effort, it is emotional fidelity. It is to remain feeling the invisible truth, even when everything seems to deny it. When doubt comes, and it will come, remember, the test is always the last step before manifestation. Doubt is not a sign of failure, but an invitation to decide anew. He who reaffirms it is already mine in the midst of the storm, he conquers. The weak react, The Creator remains. Train yourself not to waver. Sustain the new vibration until it becomes your natural state. In the beginning, this will require attention, like keeping a flame lit in the wind. But with time, this flame transforms into a sun, constant, unshakable, self-sufficient. Persistence transforms desire into conviction, and conviction shapes reality. So, when nothing seems to change, do not change yourself. When the silence seems long, continue imagining the end as already achieved. Say to yourself, "I know it already is," and return to that state whenever doubt knocks, because it is at that exact moment, when nothing seems to be happening, that everything is happening. Persistence is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. He who crosses without looking back arrives. He who doubts halfway returns to the starting point. Remain steadfast. The world is already yielding, even if you do not yet see it. The fifth principle is recognition. Everything you recognize as true grows, everything you ignore disappears. The universe is a vast consciousness that merely mirrors the content of your own. When you say it's difficult, life agrees. When you say money comes easily, it also agrees. You are the decree, and the world is merely the fulfillment. Most people live reacting to conditions, without realizing that by recognizing them as permanent, they keep them alive. Scarcity is not an enemy to be overcome, it is an illusion that dissolves when you stop recognizing it. Recognition is the seal of creation. It requires no words, only feeling. If within you there is constant recognition that you are prosperous, free, capable, the universe has no choice but to project circumstances that correspond to that state. But if you live recognizing delays, debts, lack, this becomes your altar of adoration, and what is adored grows. Everything you place emotional attention on becomes your God, and life bows before it. Therefore, observe where your attention lies. It is the compass of your creative power. If you spend all day recognizing the problem, you feed it. If you dedicate the same time to recognizing the good, you multiply it. He who understands this law never despairs before appearances. He recognizes only what he wishes to see expanded. Even when everything seems contrary, he maintains focus on the invisible truth that already is. Gratitude is the highest form of recognition. When you sincerely give thanks, you are not asking, you are asserting possession. Giving thanks before receiving is the supreme gesture of faith. It is to say to the universe, "I already have it, even if my eyes do not yet see it." And by saying this with conviction, the vision changes, reality adjusts. So today, make a pact with yourself. Recognize only what you wish to live. Facing any situation, ask yourself, does this reflect what I am or what I was? If it is the past, do not react. If it is the new, expand upon it. The power lies in choosing what to recognize as real. The world is neutral. Your consciousness defines it. When recognition becomes a habit, transformation becomes inevitable. You will begin to see money flow in unexpected ways, not because something external changed, but because the reflection finally aligned with the new image you sustained within. And at that point you will understand, reality never resisted you. It merely waited for you to remember who you truly are. Now, understand, nothing said here is theory or pretty philosophy. It is law. A law as ancient as existence itself, governing the invisible and the visible, spirit and matter, thought and result. You are not in this world to beg, but to command. Not to supplicate for blessings, but to create them with the power of your own being. Every day you have two choices: to continue reacting to the world of appearances, or to decide in silence to command the universe through the state you choose to inhabit. Stop asking. Stop supplicating external forces to do for you what only your consciousness can decree. The Creator did not give you the gift of imagination to fantasize, but to manifest. The true temple is not in the mountains or in churches, but in your mind. It is there that the invisible becomes flesh. It is there that the impossible bows. So from this moment on, act as one who already has. Speak as one who has already triumphed. Think as one who already is. Walk through life with the certainty that nothing can be denied you, because everything already exists within you, awaiting only recognition. Money, opportunities, love, health, everything is attracted not by effort, but by identity. You do not receive what you want, you receive what you are. Therefore try, just for one day, to live in this truth. A single day without doubt, without waiting, without spiritual beggary. A day where you inhabit the state of wealth, abundance and security, even if the world still shows the opposite. And you will see, the universe will respond. It always responds. Because the law is perfect and faithful, what you assume to be true within yourself, the world confirms outside. Assume then what is noble, what is prosperous, what is worthy of a child of the Most High. And when the mind tries to deceive you with appearances, respond in silence with authority. I am what I decide to be, and everything inferior to that truth will disappear before your eyes. Remember, you are not here to look for signs of power. You are the sign itself. Creation begins and ends in you, and when this truth takes hold in your consciousness, money will come, life will flow, and the impossible will become every day. Because the entire universe bows before one who finally remembers who they are.